Explosions in Siberia. Russia's ammo depots erupt in flames. Is this sabotage or just their own chaos again? Meanwhile, Ukrainian drones are rewriting the rules of war, turning enemy armor into twisted scrap. Ever heard of infantry artillery? One shot and entire assaults crumble. Meet the fourth line fire team that's making it happen. Big defense moves. Ukraine and Denmark just launched joint military production, a new chapter in European security. And NATO agrees to raise defense spending to 5% GDP, but guess who's still hesitating? Welcome to Ukraine Today. I'm Zaroslava Kolesnikova and I'm here to break down the biggest shocks, shifts and showdowns shaping our world. Stay tuned, you don't want to miss this. A fiery wake-up call in Siberia, and no, it wasn't coffee. On the morning of June 25, a massive series of detonations tore through a Russian ammunition depot in the village of Velika Tura, Zabaikalsky Krai. Russia blames dry grass and a controlled burn gone wrong. But was it really an accident or sabotage hidden in smoke and fire? This explosion sent shockwaves across the region. What was stored there and why was it left so vulnerable? Find out in our latest report.
An explosive morning in Zabaikalsky Krai. A series of detonations at a Russian military depot. The morning of June 25th in Russia's Zabaikalsky Krai began not with coffee but with loud explosions. An ammunition depot detonated in the village of Velikaya Tura. According to the official version, the cause of the fire was the ignition of dry grass, which supposedly led to the mass detonation of unexploded shells. Eyewitnesses heard at least 50 explosions. A column of smoke rose above the depot, and the area around the military base was immediately cordoned off. Military helicopters were deployed to fight the fire, and heavy firefighting aircraft were also prepared. Interestingly, this is not the first tragedy at this facility. In 2014, the same depots caught fire due to a forest fire. At that time, 10 people died and the entire village was evacuated. The explosions destroyed the school and several residential buildings. History seems to have a habit of repeating itself, especially when it comes to Russian depots and dry grass. And on Wednesday, June 25, Ukraine's defense forces struck a Russian freight train in temporarily occupied Tokmak. As a result of the attack, the depot was literally split in half. This was reported by Petron Ryshchenko, head of the Center for the Study of Occupation. According to him, the strike was carried out around 11 in the morning, and it was a joint operation by Ukrainian forces. He also noted that the train consisted of more than 40 cars, including tankers and containers. On social media, the operation has already been dubbed bowling, hinting at the scale of the destruction.
On the front lines of Kharkiv, Ukrainian defenders are rewriting the meaning of military update by turning Russian vehicles into flaming pieces of junk. The Pomsta Brigade of Ukraine's offensive guard, together with the elite UAV unit Phoenix, delivered a crushing blow from above. Precision drone strikes shattered enemy equipment and left nothing but ruins. How many Russian machines went up in flames, and what's next for the drone hunters of the East?
And in the Kharkiv region, Defense Forces fighters gave Russian equipment a real upgrade, turning it into a heap of smoldering scrap metal. In a recent report, the Revenge Assault Brigade of the State Border Guard Service of Ukraine shared the results of their work. The Phoenix Unmanned Aerial Systems Unit worked with precision from the sky, depriving the enemy of an entire arsenal. In particular, 3 152mm Stabi howitzers were sent into oblivion. One D-20 howitzer and 2 unidentified cannons have also fallen silent. 24 vehicles, including logistics trucks, are burning to the ground, and 6 fuel depots are blazing brightly under the Ukrainian sun. The drone operators of the Revenge Brigade have once again shown that a watchful eye from the sky is worse for the enemy than artillery.
He calls it infantry artillery, a small but powerful weapon that turns enemy waves into retreat. Meet Yevgen, a mayor of Ukraine's elite presidential brigade who heads assaults from just 500 meters away. But with power comes danger. The enemy hunts AGC teams like snipers and drone operators. How does he survive and strike back? Watch the story of precision, camouflage and battlefield mastery straight from the front.
This is a very effective, very powerful weapon. I like to call it small infantry artillery. That is, we can move with the infantry and provide them with fire support. These are fragmentation grenades, and as far as I remember, they are dual action. That is, at a direct angle, we can even penetrate light armored vehicles with up to 70 millimeters of armor in one shot. The guys are holding their positions, and things are really tough for them over there. We are standing about 500 to 600 meters away from them. When an enemy assault approaches, the guys call for support, and we provide that support accordingly. If we start working, usually the enemy offensive stalls immediately. We are a very high priority target. I think on par with mortar crews, snipers, and drone operators. That's why, when choosing a position, we have to be clever and pick spots that are as well protected and as hidden as possible. And of course, we have to follow safety rules, meaning not giving away our position. You can even make a position that from the outside looks like, I don't know, just a pile of trash. But in reality, it's not trash, it's an actual position. So if you need to fire, you open up the covers, remove your camouflage, so to speak, do your job, and then close it back up. There were even times when the commander was already yelling at me over the radio, telling me to wrap it up, that they had found something. I said, no, I don't like it yet. After that, I found it, and it was such a good position that, as far as I understand, the enemy still doesn't know where we were shooting from. Because you're sitting there, you've already done your job. They start firing back at you, but you realize that no, their shots are landing somewhere to the right or to the left or behind you or maybe in front, but definitely not at you. So it's not just about having skill, but I don't know, like I said, you need a bit of an adventurous spirit. I think that anyone with 100 rides under their belt will easily master this technique. First of all, as far as I remember, it was developed back in the 1960s during the Vietnam War. That's it. And don't forget, as a rule, all weapons are designed so that, as they say, you can take a guy straight from the plow, put him in position, and after a couple of minutes, he's already able to operate it. In this case, it's exactly the same. The only nuances that might come up are, for example, when aiming, fine-tuning the aim, and of course the basic cleaning and maintenance. I believe every adult man should join the ranks of the armed forces of Ukraine. It's not necessary to join our unit specifically, but you're welcome to join us as well. Every position in every unit is very important. And the number of people, well, actually determines how quickly we achieve our victory.
Major leap in Ukraine's defense capabilities, President Zelensky has just confirmed that Denmark will become the first country to co-produce military equipment with Ukraine. After high-level talks with Prime Minister Mitya Federiskin, the two leaders unveiled the bold new step: joint defense manufacturing to strengthen Ukrainians' resilience and reshape European security future. What kind of weapons will be produced, and what does this mean for the battlefield?
And even more weapons for Ukraine will be produced with the help of Denmark. Ukraine and Denmark are launching joint defense production. Zelensky announced a breakthrough in cooperation. President Volodymyr Zelensky, after negotiations with Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, announced an important strategic decision. Denmark will become the first country with which Ukraine will launch joint production of defense products. As the head of state noted, the meeting was productive. The parties discussed in detail issues of cooperation in the field of armaments, prospects for further military assistance, and the role of Denmark as the country currently presiding over the EU Council. Kyiv emphasizes, countries that sincerely support Ukraine in its confrontation with the aggressor can count on a reliable and mutually beneficial partnership. At the conclusion of the meeting, the president thanked Denmark for its consistent political and defense support, noting that such steps not only strengthen the Ukrainian army but also make all of Europe stronger. These are not all the positive news for today.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
A bold move from NATO member states have provisionally agreed to raise defense spending to 5% of GDP, a dramatic shift in the face of global threats. But there is no holdout: Spain. Final approval still hinges on full consensus, including the backing of US President Donald Trump. Will all allies stand united, or will internal rifts slow the plan?
NATO countries have agreed to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP. Spain has made an exception. The member states of the North Atlantic Alliance have reached a preliminary agreement to raise defense expenditures to 5% of gross domestic product. The final adoption of this decision is expected after the consent of all NATO leaders, including US President Donald Trump. However, not all countries fully supported the initiative. Spain has reached an agreement with the alliance for an individual approach. Madrid will not join the commitment to spend 5% of its GDP. The Spanish authorities believe that such expenditures are excessive but are ready to fulfill allied obligations in other formats, for example by contributing personnel or equipment, investing about 2% of their GDP. At the same time, according to Interfax Ukraine, the draft final declaration of the NATO summit in The Hague, which will take place on June 24-25, already includes a reference to Ukraine. The partners have reaffirmed their commitments to further support Kyiv. And importantly, this assistance will also be included in the same 5% defense budget of the member countries. For Ukraine, this means strengthened political and material support from NATO amid the ongoing war, as well as even deeper integration into the alliance's common security architecture. That's all for today. Tune in tomorrow for the next news update.
That's all for today on Ukraine Today. If you believe in truth, justice and Ukrainians' fight for freedom, now is the time to act. Become a channel sponsor, share this video, subscribe and hit the bell to never miss an update. Your support fuels our work, empowers Ukrainian journalists and strengthens the voice of a nation under fire. See you soon. Stay strong, stay sharp and stay with Ukraine.